No, vestments are not just a matter of getting all dressed up and no place to go. Otherwise, that would just be kind of high church, dressed up stuff. And I think we sometimes give what we do a bad name just because it looks like we look like the infant of Prague occasionally with the promise, the more you dress me, the more I'll bless thee. Well, this is not about that at all. As a matter of fact, it really is about putting on the wedding garment. But there are also prayers. I don't know if you've ever been to the Holy Land, but if you have, you notice that when a devout Jew puts on and takes off the phylactery, that there's a particular way to put it on, a particular way that they wear it and have it, but it's not clothing. It's symbol of prayer, just like everything here is a prayer. I'm taking off right now the stole, which comes from the pallium, which has been an important part of worldwide history. This prayer, specifically at the beginning, says, when we're talking about the stole, "Give me again, O Lord, the stole of immortality, which I lost by the transgression of my first parents. And although I am unworthy to come into thy holy sacrament, grant that I maintain everlasting felicity." And similarly, over here, as we're taking all of the vestments off, I would say all of these prayers. Let it be to me a riddance of all vices, all extermination of all evil desires and lusts, an increase of love and patience, of humility and obedience and all virtues. Now, the cincture has what I would call a kind of metaphorical function. The reason I mentioned the stole first is because stoles are worn in different ways depending upon the circumstances. Bishops never cross their stoles. Priests always cross their stoles. Deacons always wear their stoles in a different configuration. There are several, so I won't bore you with that. And over the years, we have seen the pallium worn in different ways depending upon whether it's the Eastern Church or whether it's the Western Church. For sake of the argument, since many people watching this are probably more of the Western Church, its one function as a cincture is to keep the stole from flapping around. The reason why a bishop never crosses his stole, as a priest does, because it would block the pectoral cross, and only bishops are permitted to wear pectoral crosses with vesture, so that's the reason. And here we have the cincture. Mine is green because bishops are supposed to wear green and gold ones to remind us that our original color of green is reminiscent of the fact that we are pastors. So these are only worn, this color is only worn by a bishop. But this is the way it's kept for bishops and priests because the stole is going this way. If it were for deacons, then it would be gone over this way because when the stole goes over, it's tucked here, and it's tucked here, and then it's tightened. And at that point, the cincture has another function. So here are the functions. 1, to keep the stole in place. 2, because since this is streetwear, pretend I'm not wearing pants underneath here. I mean, I don't want to make this into an X-rated thing, but remember, pants are a modern invention. This is the way we dressed. And so the cincture's function was simply to hike it up so that when we walked across the stream or we walked into difficult places, we weren't getting our vestments dirty. So it's really functional in that regard. Thus, 2 functions. 1, keep the stole straight. And 2 is to be able to make sure that it will hold up the vestments. Now, you'll notice, though, that there's, again, a prayer. And, by the way, when you set vestments out, you can see what I've just done there. Everything goes back in a particular place. See this? I-H-S. First 3 letters in the name of Jesus in Greek. So even the vestments are set up in a particular way. You can see over here, for example, the girdle, for the girdle or the cincture. Gird me, O Lord, with the girdle of purity, and quench me in the fire of concupiscence, that the grace of temperance and chastity may abide with me. It reminds me that I'm supposed to take on these virtues before I go to the altar of God. Over here, it also makes it very clear that as I take them off, let it be to me a firm defense against the wiles of my enemies, visible and invisible, and it goes on. Now I want you to think about that. Do some of you come out of a tradition where you read Ephesians carefully about putting on the full armor of God? Well, that's what I do. I put on the full armor of God. And when we take off the full armor of God, we don't say something like, really glad to get that off me, that was too heavy. No, we give thanks for what happened while we had the armor on. Now this is the alb. I'll take it off in a moment and say another word to you. This is the alb. I love it now that they have off-white ones. That's like saying an off-white albino rabbit. The word alb just means white. It just comes from the Latin for white. There are different types of albs, of course. This one just happens to be a bishop's alb, called a prelatial alb. It has a prayer. This is the amice. It has a prayer, and it has two functions. It's symbolic of putting on, just like the full armor of God, because over here it talks about the helmet of salvation. But then also from a practical level, it also is, it prevents the hair oils from discoloring all of the vestments. I still have hair oil, even though I don't have much hair. And then here we have the cassock, which has another cincture, same thing, so you can hoist it up in case you're walking, because this is streetwear. Never call cassock a vestment. A cassock is not a vestment. That's like calling your blue jeans vestments, because that's maybe your most basic vestment, or your black pants, your slacks. No, those aren't vestments. These are not vestments because of the fact that they simply are the streetwear of the clergy. I can't help it that the style has changed. I didn't make the change, so I continue to do what always was. And then we'll put the pectoral cross back on, and I thank you. I hope that makes sense. This pectoral cross was given to me by 3 tribes of Native Americans. And this is brought to you live from St. Timothy's Church, and I am Bishop Ackerman, always happy to invite you into my kitchen.